It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Yeah, all year long and into 2025. That'll be us. And it's a Vibe Check Tuesday here on the show, so we will be talking to you here in just a few minutes at 301-230-0980. Anthony Haney. Well, go ahead and finish chewing. I just realized as I was about to ask Anthony how he was doing, the pleasantries to start the show, like the gentleman that we are, that there was still some up and down chumping going. First of all, how's your lunch?
Oh, it was fantastic.
What'd you have for lunch?
I had salmon, rice, and broccoli.
Wow, how on the nose. There's a lot of people that think that's my entire diet. People
like Doc, maybe?
Yeah, I'm just like, no, I eat a lot of stuff. Venturous eater. Okay, that's good. How are you? Your lunch was good. How are you as a person in your soul, Anthony?
I'm doing pretty good.
Okay. I feel like that's probably a little deeper than just relative pleasantries.
Ahead of the new year. I like to do things ahead of the new year, and I think for the most part, I've done and accomplished most of the things that I wanted to do.
Good for you, man.
Yes, sir.
Good for you. Way to get the house clean before you came into work. I had to do a little straightening today as well. Hopefully enough was done to make everybody happy. And we're just going to roll from there. Been a long day. Had to get up early, watch some tape because, Anthony, offensively, bro, they ran a lot of plays on Sunday.
Yes, we did.
Like 80-something plays. That's a lot of film to watch.
Yeah. How long did it take you?
Technically, I'm not done. I'm not going to lie to you or the audience. I have not watched overtime yet.
Oh, my gosh.
I have not watched the overtime. We could just do that on the show today. I'll just fire up the film and be like, oh, look at it go. I think we did that once. And although I would love to be able to put the actual film on YouTube, that would make it even better. The legal department at both my company and the NFL would not be psyched about that. And our company would not be psyched because the NFL would not be. You get it. Also, I don't know how good of radio it actually is, so we're not going to do that. There is one drive I want to go through here in a second. But it took me, I was probably working for at least an hour and change, like an hour 10, hour 15 last night after the show. Like after I got home, after I made dinner, I was like, okay, let me see if I can at least get to the second half. Because that was the thing about the game on Sunday was like they didn't actually run a ton of plays offensively in the first half. Then they ran 30 basically by the time the Falcons ran 3 in the second. And so they had a bunch of long sustained drives in the second half and then they had almost a 10-play drive, I think it was, in overtime. So just because you got to halftime meant you were like a quarter of the way through the actual number of plays you had to watch, where the defense was the opposite. And actually, normally I watch the offense first. I actually watched the defense first this week because I thought there was some stuff that I wanted to look at there that was more interesting to me. And defensively, I was like, if I can just get to halftime, I'm basically done. Because they ran 3 plays in the third quarter and then had 1 drive in the fourth. And then one real drive. Then they had that mini drive that had the PI that resulted in the near miss or the missed field goal to get to overtime. But yeah, offensively, I started a little after 7. And technically I'm still going. So we're talking about 12 plus hours. No, I stopped around 8:30 because that's when we take command. So 2.5 hours and counting. Y'all say I don't do the work. Nobody actually says that. People are like, man, we appreciate all that grind that you do. Thanks for staying up till 2 a.m. doing Take Command, instant reaction show. You're welcome. I'm paying for it 2 days later. I'm so excited we have tomorrow off. I love doing the show, but actually, Anthony, I think I'm going to petition our boss to say next year, because the Commanders, they had 2 primetime games. They played 1 Thursday, right? Who'd they play on Thursday this year? They played someone on a Thursday. It wasn't the Bears again.
Oh, it was the Steelers or Eagles, one of them.
Oh, it was the Eagles. That's right. They played the Eagles on Thursday.
Yep, short week.
And then they had the Sunday night game that got flexed. Bro, next year, they're going to be on primetime 5 times next year. No doubt about it. They'll have 1 Thursday nighter. They'll probably actually play the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. It's been a couple years, and they're the best team in the NFC, the most intriguing team probably in the NFC East, unless the Eagles win the Super Bowl. But And not to say that they're better than the Eagles not that there's a bunch of Eagles fans looking to jump down someone's throat on New Year's Eve listening to DC radio, but just in case. But I think because of Jayden, they're going to want Jayden on as many primetime as they can. So Thanksgiving, there's one. They'll have another random Thursday. Maybe even they'll do the double up because, like, say the Lions are on the schedule. Oh, God. Am I turning into Kevin Sheehan? But here we are. The Lions are on the schedule next year. So how does this sound? Cowboys Thanksgiving, Lions the following Thursday. Feels like that could be in the mix because they've started to do that where they take two of the Thanksgiving teams and then have them play the ensuing Thursday. So it's a full week's rest, but it's still a Thursday night primetime. They'll definitely be on Monday Night Football at least once. Oh, they had the Monday night against Cincinnati too this year. So I guess technically they have 3. And then you know that at least one game, if not multiple, will be Sunday Night Football. So not all of them will be home games because they're actually, like I was looking at this the other day. So they have the NFC North and the AFC West next year. So there's a ton of games that are super high profile. They're going to have the Packers, the Vikings, the Lions, the Bears again, which we'll see what they are in year 2 of Caleb with a new head coach, right? So there's 4 potential primetime games. Then the AFC West. So you have Mahomes and the Chiefs, Herbert and the Chargers, and then the Broncos, which is another class of 2024 quarterback matchup between he and Bo Nix. And then who knows if the Raiders get the number 1 pick, they could even be considered interesting. Then you have your 6 NFC East games, and you're playing a second place schedule. So the wild card games, if you will, are going to be against, for instance, the Falcons or the Bucks, whoever finishes second by the end of the weekend in the NFC South. The NFC West second team, so the Seahawks, and then the NFC, or then there'll be like one random AFC second place team, which is a TBD. We're talking about potentially the Colts. We're talking about who else? AFC East. Who's in second in the AFC? The Dolphins, or the AFC South. They're already playing the West. North, AFC North. Who's second in the North? The Steelers.
Yep, Steelers.
So that's the Commanders' schedule next year. Name the not prime. All due respect to the Colts, that's your one not primetime game if that winds up being it. So 1, difficulty level high. 2, primetime level games, chances high. But like the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Lions, and the Packers are all on the road. So Minnesota, I believe, is here. And there's a couple more that are here, obviously. Like you have your NFC East games here. But a lot of like you're going to, it's actually a really cool like travel schedule. If you're a fan who wants to go to really cool places, because you get to go to Arrowhead, Lambeau, SoFi. So you get some history, you got some new stuff. So we'll see. And hey, might be going to SoFi in a couple weeks because as of right now, Commanders will be playing the Rams there. Of course, they'll be the Chargers there next season. So there's that. I do want to go through one drive play-by-play on the notes next. And then I want to take your calls at 301-230-0980. It's a Vibe Check Tuesday. So we're taking your pulse. Commanders back in the playoffs for the first time since 2020. But we'll take your calls. We can start with some calls next. But I also do want to go through one drive of this game that just shows how ridiculous Jayden Daniels was and how many plays he had to make to pull this off, to get the Commanders to overtime. Nevertheless, what he's able to do when they were there. We'll do that next on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And coming up in less than 15 minutes, we're taking your calls at 301-230-0980 to do a Vibe Check Tuesday. Check in with you. How you feeling? Commanders back in the playoffs for the first time since 2020. First 11-win season since 91. So I'm guessing you're probably feeling pretty good. Although, comments section, YouTube live chat yesterday was angsty. So who knows what we're going to get? That's why we do it. That's why we check in. We don't make assumptions. We do the actual reporting by taking your calls at 301-230-0980. Before we do that, though, Anthony, I got the big giant legal pad out. And you see all this, Anthony?
Yep.
How far down on this gigantic sheet of paper is that line break right there?
About 3/4 of the way.
That's the first drive of the second half.
Wow.
All of that from here up is one drive. And here's what I would like to do. I want to go through that drive. And I want to do it and just have you. I'm not going to go through like, oh, they ran a dagger concept with this 6-man protection in the slide. I'm not going to do the whole details because to try to describe each and every play, one, would take forever, and two, is not actually interesting or the point. I simply want to go through the results of each play. A 15-play touchdown drive. And I want you to simply, when I tell you what happened on the play, go good or bad. And then I want you to keep track of the goods and the bads. And at the end of 15 plays, when the Commanders are in the end zone, I am very curious to see how many goods and how many bads there are. I haven't actually done this exercise yet. But watching it back on film, I was just like, this drive is fake. This drive is ridiculous because this is not how you draw up a 15-play touchdown drive on paper. Ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. First play of the drive is after the kickoff return, so we're talking 14:54 in the third quarter. On 1st and 10, they run some deep comebacks. It's a completion to OZ, but Cosme has a holding penalty.
So that's bad.
That's bad. Holding, bad. Okay, we got one bad. 1st and 20. Check down to B-Rob for 5 yards.
We'll take it.
I'll count that as good. It's fine. 5 yards on second down, normally good. It's better when it's 2nd and 10 even than 2nd and... You get the point. 2nd and 15. It is a sack.
That's bad.
That's bad. Nick Allegretti gave up some pressure. It's a sack. 3rd and 22. It's another sack.
It's very bad.
Yeah, except for there's a terribly soft, royally ridiculous penalty on the Falcons, illegal contact downfield, that saves the Commanders and ultimately gets them a first down. So...
That's good.
That's good. By the way, if I was a Falcons fan or I was an Atlanta radio host, I would have done 3 hours on how much I hate that penalty yesterday. Because it is technically, by the letter of the law, a penalty. And by the way, I also will happily admit that there's some other times in the game where the Commanders are the benefit, or the Falcons are the benefit of some calls, including hold on Cosme, at least one, if not both of the holds on Cosme. I didn't really like the PI that gave them a chance to kick the field goal at the end of the game. The difference is the Commanders took advantage here and the Falcons didn't. So there's my ref rant for the day. Refs, please do not be in key situations wanting to insert yourself into the game. So that's good. That's good. 1st and 10 now. We're down to 13:27 to go in the third quarter. It's that cool, like, fake screenplay where he tries to hit Crowder and he misses. So incompletion.
Yeah, bad.
All right, 2nd and 10. Inside zone, good run. They get 10 yards.
Good.
That's good. All right, we're 1st and 10 again. Holding penalty on KJ Osborne on the screen.
Bad.
Next play. So now we're 1st and 20. This is the one where Jayden makes magic and he hits Zach Ertz and Zach Ertz rumbles down the field for 37 yards.
Good.
That's good. That's big time good. That's extra super good. 1st and 10 now. Misses a swing pass to Jeremy McNichols.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah, it's incomplete. That's bad. 2nd and 10. We got a 5-yard run.
Good.
All right. So now we're at 3rd and 5. Jayden Daniels scrambles for 9 yards.
Fantastic.
Love that. We're now in 1st and 10. They try to hit Terry on a slant. Incomplete.
Bad.
Next place. We're in first and 10. Or sorry, we're in second and 10. This is the one where he tries to hit Terry over the middle, and it's a bad ball. Incomplete.
Bad.
All right, third and 10. You hit Crowder on like he chips and then releases and hits a little slant route for 9 yards.
That's good.
We count that as good because it's third and 10. I guess we'll count it as good because it gets you to 4th and 1. But it's questionable. You don't get the first down on third down. Typically, that's technically by the stat of success rate. That is an unsuccessful down, but you're the Commanders. And so on 4th and 1, Jayden is able to keep it and scramble outside for 4 yards.
That's good.
That's good. Now we're first down, 3-yard run. I'm gonna say that's bad.
Good too.
I'm gonna say that 3 yards not what we're looking for.
But where were we when we got the 3 yards?
Like outside the 10-yard line.
Oh no, that's not good.
Yeah. So I think it's first and 10 from the 12. I don't write down the yard markers on my notes. Second and 7. Sack.
Very bad.
Yeah. This one was only kind of bad. It was a -1 yard sack. This is the one where he runs out to the right and Jesse Bates escorts him out of bounds.
Yep.
So not heinously bad like some of the sacks, like the -7 sack 28,000 plays ago at the start of this drive. And then 3rd and 8, touchdown.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that was good. I didn't think you need help with that one. All right, Anthony. 15-play drive. Ends in a touchdown. How many good, how many bad?
We got 9 good. We got 9 bad.
How does there 18 plays on what was supposed to be a 15-play drive?
Because I think the penalties.
Oh, the penalties don't count? Did I really write down 18 plays here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Holy potatoes. 18 plays.
Yes, sir.
9 good, 9 bad.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the thing about some of these drives is in the key situations, you either get lucky in the case of the penalty, or, hey, it's 3rd and 5. Jayden just scrambles for a first down. 4th and 1. Not ideal. Don't want to have to convert 4th downs, but converting 4th downs is better than not converting 4th downs. And then, like, even the final 3-play sequence. Unsuccessful run, sack, and then Jayden just is able to rip a ball to Zach. Zach does a tremendous job. It's like a 4 verts concept, and he just kind of posts up. He just runs to the end zone, and then it's like, I am a large human. Get off me. And Jayden throws the ball to his outside shoulder, like literally like a post up. If you post up, you stick that one big hand up, and you're like, the defender's on my left. Please throw the ball to my right hand. And if you play with a good guard, they'll actually do it. And that's basically what Ertz did. He was like, I'm going to run. I'm going to be on one side. Jayden throws to that side. Bang, touchdown. And that was that drive and many other moments in this game where Jayden just makes chicken salad out of an otherwise not very good drive. And then, by the way, the silliest thing is I think their 2 best, like if we were to do the good bad thing, and their highest percentage of good drives are the drive he throws the pick on, and then there is, what was the other drive? The one that ends in the Cosme holding penalty on 3rd down where they score and it gets wiped off. And then they get stuck. Because on that drive, it's a 16-yard completion, a 7-yard run, an 11-yard run, a 12-yard run, a 1-yard run, 14-yard completion, and then they're at the 3-yard line. That's like 5 good plays and 1 bad one.
Yeah.
And then their goal line execution / play calling, I kind of actually hated on that drive. They tried to do the Chris Paul bit, and they clearly hadn't practiced the Chris Paul bit because the Chris Paul bit's supposed to be the Trent Scott bit, but Trent Scott had to play for Cornelius Lucas, who was playing for Andrew Wiley, and oh my God, injuries might actually matter in the NFL. Point is, when Dan Quinn talks about winning time moments, that's kind of what we're talking about. Winning time moments extend beyond simply, oh, hey, it's overtime, very clearly a winning time moment. Hey, it's end of the 4th quarter, winning time moment. It's 4th down and we got to have it. It's 3rd down and we got to at least get close, if not got to have it. And time again in this game, that's where Jayden stood out. And so that's why he gets the flowers that he's getting. And I think that there actually is a bunch of other good stuff in this game. And that was the interesting thing about doing Take Command this morning with Logan, is Logan was like, we put this all on Jayden, but I actually think there was more to it than that. There's a plenty of other guys who deserve their flowers as well. And Zach Ertz and Olamide Zaccheaus, and, some of the stuff that the line did in the second half from a rushing standpoint was actually pretty good. And so from the staff to the players, like my overall takeaway from the game was like, this is a game where they found a way. And I think after watching the tape, like that was confirmed. It may have been a slightly different way in some areas than I thought initially, but they 100% just freaking found a way. It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. When we get back, your calls, 301-230-0980 on a Vibe Check Tuesday. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We are streaming live on YouTube as well at the Team 980. Coming up at 5 p.m., Mitch Tischler joins us. Holy potatoes, it's a Tischler Tuesday. Also, later on in the show, we have pulled probably too many clips of our favorite moments of the year in 2024 on the show. And so we're going to go through some of our favorites. Right now, it's a Vibe Check Tuesday. And you can give us a call at 301-230-0980. Again, 301-230-0980. Phone lines are wide open right now. You can also hit us in the YouTube chat at the team 980. Let's check in on that, by the way, Anthony. I'm also scared that just like it's New Year's Eve. Is anybody out there? Hello. It's 4:30 on New Year's Eve. Eve. Is anybody driving around listening?
Tonight's festivities, dinner. You got people that go to church. You got people that host, these kinds of parties and things of that nature. Some people might be in New York right now, getting ready for the ball to drop.
Does that interest you? Do you have any once in your life? Are you like, you know what I want to do? I want to go see the ball drop in Times Square.
So, this is what I would say.
Or have you done it before? First of all,
I have not done it.
Okay, neither have I.
But I think in my lifetime, I do want to go to Times Square and see the ball drop. However, Craig, I would not be out there days ahead of time. I would not be out there hours ahead of time. I think I'll get out there, 2-3 hours maybe, and stand in place and just wait for the ball to drop. I'm not gonna go out there camping though. Like, I want to see it drop, but I just don't want to stand in the cold and have to wait in one spot, not be able to use the bathroom, not be able to eat. Like, come on.
1,000% out on that. I've always said I would love to be there if I could do it VIP style. Like, if I knew someone, or hey Anthony, hey, this show might go places.
Hey man,
we're 10,000 subscribers on YouTube now, man.
Yes, sir.
I don't think that's enough to get you an invite to New Year's Eve in Times Square, but our goal I'm actually about to announce on our channel at Craig Hoffman video coming up tomorrow morning to say what the goal is for 2025. I don't think if we reach that, we'll be at VIP status either, but it's an ambitious goal. Point is, if I could ever get to VIP status or know someone who's got an apartment or whatever, I guess there's not really a ton of apartments. It's all hotels, whatever, and it's all corporate. But say someone's got an office in Times Square, they have access, and I could get in and show up at 11:30 and see the ball drop and all that. I'd be open to the idea, but doing the whole we camped out for 4 days.
Yeah, not doing that.
No,
this is not Syracuse versus Duke. I'm not camping out.
No. Are you camped out?
So I didn't personally camp out. My friends definitely camped out. They slept in the cold, the weather, they did all of that. I was the beneficiary of good friends that wanted to camp out, and when it was time to go into the game, I was there, Craig. I want to say I was in the third row, second row, something like that. Yeah, but I wasn't sitting out in that cold. No, sir.
Yeah, I definitely never did the camping bit. I also didn't go to a ton of games as a fan because I would do the press. I was student media,
working and stuff.
Yeah, so there was also that.
All freshman year though,
yeah, because that's the thing is I didn't have a freshman year at Cuse. I transferred in, so I was student media when I was a freshman too, just at a different school. So yeah, I didn't really have that experience of the camping out. I definitely do not want to camp out for New Year's Eve. I don't really think there's much in my life at this point that I would camp out for. I'm such a spoiled brat. Being in media, man, I'm not saying it's a perfect job with no downfalls. I'm also not saying that I get in anywhere I want. Certainly at the local sports radio guy level. But within sports, you get to do some cool stuff on occasion, and you get to be some places. But I think more than that, it spoils the hell out of you because you're like, wait, I have to buy a ticket and sit out in the elements? What? I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
If it's for free, it's for me. If it's in a press box and there's food and there's, I will say I wish that Sunday night the windows had been open because the weather was beautiful and I would have liked to experience the atmosphere a little bit more than being in our very sterile environment there at Northwest Stadium. And also that would mean the stupid panes that blocked the view of half the field wouldn't be in the way.
Man.
But again, first world problems here. But I do definitely think that I can't think of what I would camp out for at this point in my life. It's also a technology thing. Like most things that, like, oh my God, you got to camp out for. It's like, I don't know. Is it actually even better to be there, or is the TV coverage good enough now that you just rather watch on TV?
Yeah. I mean, I will say graduations, especially at like HBCUs, you got to camp out at. It is like first come, first serve. And if you want a good spot in there, better get there early. My mom didn't play about that. But outside of that, like, yeah, I don't know what else I would camp out for.
Yeah.
Like when I was in high school, I used to camp out for shoes, but that's about it.
Yeah. I like a concert of some kind. Like if your favorite artist was putting on a concert, well, you've seen Rod Wave 3,472 times,
Yep.
and that's actually just in the last 3 months. But if like Beyonce goes back on tour, right? Cowboy Carter tour, we all think it's coming. That's the thing that's going to get announced in mid-January, right? And you had to camp out for tickets, or like if it was a first come first serve to get in, would you do it? Is there an artist that you like that much?
No.
I feel like that's like
I do want to see Beyonce though in my lifetime before she finishes.
Yeah,
I do want to see her.
It 100% worth it. The Renaissance tour was outrageous. That's the one show I've been to, and I have a feeling I would probably be going to Cowboy Carter as well. Because I think like most sporting events, being there is sick. I love being like there's something saying like, yeah, I was there, right? But if we're really being honest, the difference in like there are enough positives to watching it on TV, including probably actually the game itself being experienced in a better way, and certainly like a way you can understand it more because you know you have the replays and you have a camera shot that is designed to maximize what you can intake versus just like I don't know where you're sitting. Those, especially if you're up high, like those little dots are running around. Like that's one thing. A concert. Like, yeah, concert films are cool, but it's nowhere close to being there. And like when you're there for a concert, you get the audio, which if you're seeing someone who is a great, great performer, like that is incredible. I mean, Beyonce opened the Renaissance tour, for instance, like singing opera. And she's just like, I'm just going to flex on y'all real quick, and then I'll do my sing dance, whatever. And she just like does this. It doesn't translate on television. Like the quality of her voice, and the same thing for, you know, if you hear various artists that I've been to where it's like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that he could do that. And it's just different to experience it live. And then you have like the giant screen so you can see some of the details even if you're far away. But that like live audio element is just something that's totally different, and feeling the energy. Or on TV, I feel like sports, you get that. So in other words, like concerts are the thing that I feel like I would probably be most likely to camp out for. But I still don't know that I would be like, yeah, I'm good. I need to camp out for this because I truly cannot miss this moment. I cannot live without it. I'm not much of a camper. I thought that probably that's not shocking to people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you now. Back in my heyday, I definitely probably would have. I don't know. Nah, I would have.
We're just old and brats and spoiled now.
Only things I did camp out for while I was in college. Kevin Hart, Mike Epps, they had comedy shows. I was there, I want to say like 7-8 hours earlier, like prior to like the show starting. But they were on Sunday, so I would watch the Commanders game, sit there. Like I had something to do. I was being productive.
Yeah. No, I hear you on that.
Yeah.
I hear you on that. I definitely think a younger me with less stuff. I got stuff to do now. Got stuff to do.
Time is money, Craig.
Being an adult is terrible. Remember being a kid where you could just camp out for stuff? What a time. Kids, don't grow up. It's overrated. All right. We have any calls yet, Anthony?
We do not.
All right. Which means every single phone line is open. Get in here. 301-230-0980. Commanders Vibe Check Tuesday. How we feeling? You tell us next. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. Always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And I see you wanting to get out of your chair right now.
I am. Hey, look, this song comes on.
We all know
already know I'm eager.
We know the score. All right. Sorry to change gears dramatically here. We're going to get to the phone lines in 30 seconds here on the Hoffman Show. But just got this in the inbox. The Cowboys are releasing Ezekiel Elliott ahead of the playoffs. Statement from Jerry Jones, who, of course, the Commanders will face the Cowboys this weekend. Not that Zeke is doing a whole lot. He's getting 1 to 5 carries a game, so this doesn't really change a whole lot. But out of respect and appreciation for Zeke and wanting to provide him with an opportunity to pursue any potential playoff participation, we are releasing him from the Cowboys roster today. As I've said many times previously, Zeke's impact as one of the greatest to ever play with the star on their helmet will never change and is etched in our record books and history forever. We thank him, love him, and wish him the absolute best. So that's from Jerry Jones. Commanders weren't going to have to deal with Ezekiel Elliott very much this weekend because he's not playing a whole lot, but now they have to deal with him none. I could see a playoff team if they're really short at running back, and no, the Commanders absolutely do not qualify here, even with Austin Eckler out. Zeke he'll get kind of what's blocked. He has no explosiveness left, but he's a guy that is pretty reliable in pass protection and stuff. So if you get in a real bind and need a third down back, I could see a playoff team being there are worse guys to have around than Ezekiel Elliott on that front. If I was a playoff team and I was a little thin at running back, I'd probably sign with my practice squad and then just be okay, hey, if we need to call you up, we will. Again, I don't think the Commanders are in that spot because of how well Chris Rodriguez has played. And B-Rob had some really nice carries on Sunday. He actually averaged 4.6 a carry on Sunday when all things were said and done. And then obviously McNichols is already filling that third down back role. So, but worth mentioning just because Cowboys and Commanders are playing this weekend. Okay, vibe check. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. That is the phone number where you call us and you tell us how you're feeling about the Commanders as they are headed back to the playoffs. Overtime win. Love to see it. Love to see it all. Let's go to Kurt in District Heights. Kurt, thanks for calling. Get us started here on the Hoffman Show.
Hey, Craig, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Kurt. Appreciate you calling.
All right, good vibes, man, good vibes. I see Anthony's feeling good. He's playing his Q-Dog music. But I want to say this real quick to Anthony. I'm a Sigma, and I'm an old man, but I step better than you. I know I can.
Oh,
okay?
boy. This is the
Anthony
vibe we're bringing to New Year's Eve, Kurt?
Okay?
We're trying to start a war on New Year's Eve?
I'll challenge him anytime. Just let me know.
Oh, my God. Hey, look,
okay?
I don't know if you want any smoke, Kurt. I promise you, I'm nice.
I'll take that smoke, man. No problem. But anyway,
oh my
good
God.
vibes, man. I mean, the Commanders had a whole area feeling good. They definitely had me feeling good. Listen, when they win like they win in the past couple games, hey, my wife is prettier. My bank account's fatter. The food tastes better. At least that's the perception anyway, Craig. I mean, it's good, man. And another thing, man, it's good that the fact that, if what we were really expecting out of them, for me, a good 8 wins, double the win total from last year, or even 9 wins. But say they had gone 9-8, they wouldn't even made the playoffs. Okay, so them having 11 wins with a possibility of 12 wins in a season where the wild card, the best get in is 12. I think that makes it even better, man.
Yeah. No, it's a high standard, and they've met it. Kurt, appreciate the call, even though you have now started a war, and I hope that your bank account is actually fat and all of those things. Kurt, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Vibe Check Tuesday here on the Hoffman Show. Anthony, let's go from someone who is challenging you from a rival to we got one of your frat brothers on the line? Anthony.
Yeah, what's up, y'all?
Yeah.
Root to the Q's,
Yeah, we got my man Kari.
This is
what's
amazing.
up, y'all? Root to the Q's.
Kari, what do you think? We got Kurt the caller versus Anthony. Who you got?
Taking Anthony all today. Root to the Q's. Root to the good bros.
Of course. All right, Kari. Hey, appreciate you calling in. What you got on the Commanders for us, though?
Yeah, my vibe check is I'm starting to think we might be in a Joey B. Bengal situation. Like, we can score 40, 45, 50 on anyone, but I think anyone can score 40, 45, 50 on us. So that's got me a little worried. Of course, feeling good. I was at the game Sunday, bought my tickets at 5:30 p.m. I was like, there's no way in hell I'm missing this. But I'm a little worried about the defense. Yeah, we got 5, and, 5 can do anything, but just like Joey B, at some point, we can't score 45, 50, 55, and that might catch up to us. And I'll take it off the air. Appreciate y'all.
Yeah, Corey, appreciate the call. I mean, I don't know that anyone scores 40 on this team. I think some of the teams that are in the playoffs can score 40 on this team, which, is a problem because those are the teams that are in the playoffs, and that's what, outside of the Cowboys, are left on the schedule. I do think that the defense played at an okay level on Sunday for long stretches. The problem is this is who they've been all year. And like, if you play okay or even good football for long stretches, you're not going to get 40 put on you. But you can very easily get 25, 28 put on you, 30 put on you by a good team in short bursts because you give up big plays. And I think we've seen the rush defense obviously fluctuate tremendously the last 2 weeks. They were awful for the first 7 carries against Saquon Barkley. They were as good as anyone has played Saquon Barkley all year for the final 22. They were pretty bad. Maybe something just short of awful, but they were really, really bad in the first half against Bijan Robinson on Sunday. In the second half, they found a solution. And that's the thing is, like, if they can find some of these solutions earlier in games, and then they can just stop doing dumb stuff in the back end, in high leverage moments, just play the thing that you're told to play. That's the thing that kills me. And this is not just a St. Juice issue, but it was his issue. It was Davis. It's Sainer still. All of them are just in big moments not doing the things they're coached to do. And I don't know what that is. Like, these guys are some of the best defensive back coaches in the league. I don't think that this is a coaching issue. I think this is, in Sainer still's case, an experience issue. And a young guy is getting out over his skis. I think in St. Juice's case, it's a mental thing where it's just like in the big moments, he seems to get so riled up, and it's like, bro, calm and confident. When you play calm and confident with a little bit of an edge to you, you're actually a pretty good corner. And then you lose your mind and, decide to punch someone in the face mask and pick up an illegal hands to the face penalty, or not trust your technique and get beat. And then Michael Davis is just, he doesn't move well enough to be an elite NFL corner. So that's the problems there. But if they can just play within themselves, which they tend to settle into from the jump, I think this defense will be just fine. And then it's a matter of what the offense can do, because that's the last piece of it, right? Is they're also so much better in a shocking turn of events. Great analysis here when they can play complementary football. Part of the way the defense got better in the second half on Sunday was they weren't on the field. And so when they're on the field, they're fresh and they're good. And they obviously made some schematic and personnel changes as well, but they're also just fresher. They got run off the field in the first half because they could not get key stops. And really, I mean, there's the one drive where the Falcons just run it down their throat and they don't even see third down. This is first down, second down, first down, second down, first down, second down. So there was a touchdown. Crazy. But you gotta be able to get those stops, get off the field, and then keep it moving and let your offense do their thing. When the offense sustains drives and the defense can rest, like, they actually, I think, play pretty well. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. When we get back, it is a Tischler Tuesday, our final one of 2024. Mitchell joins us to talk more about the Commanders and how he's feeling going into Week 18. An hour from now, some of the best of the Hoffman Show in 2024. We have pulled some good ones, some things that I forgot about. Very excited about that. 30 minutes from now, a Jayden Daniels Take Command Tape Tuesday. But right now, it's 5 o'clock. It's Tuesday, one of the best parts of our show all year long. It's time for a Tischler Tuesday and Not My Beat.
Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not My Beat.
Mitchell, in the spirit of Chris Berman, let me be the first to wish you a Happy New Year.
I thought you were going to drop, forget it. Let's do it live. We'll do it live. Forget it.
That wasn't Berman. I feel like Berman had a moment like that, but wasn't that Bill O'Reilly?
It might have been, but Berman definitely had a moment with there were some people like walking around behind the cameras.
Oh, that one. Yes. Yes, that was he was back in like the ninth. I think that's the catch game, the Dwight Clark catch game. I think that was post game that game.
How about that? It's a long time ago.
Yeah, that's not where I thought we would start, but you know, sometimes the spirit of Chris Berman takes over you. Hey, all right.
When we're talking Commanders, you got to talk NFC championships, right?
Hey, first time since 91 with 11 wins. Why not? And actually, I do want to start like super big picture with you, Mitch, because you've been covering this team for a long time. And as you've watched the season unfold, and now we see where it lands, where it is going to be in the playoffs, it'll be 11 or 12 wins. And you try to just zoom out and put it in perspective. The reasons why, what it means, any meaningful story that you've collected along the way from interactions with fans or something in your own life. Like, as someone who's been around this team for so much crap, what does it mean to you now? And what's your perspective on where this thing has landed, knowing that there still could be plenty more good ahead?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the most fun part of this season, aside from watching winning football, is seeing a fan base, come back and start cheering on their team. I always go back. I grew up in the area. I've been, around friends and family that had, season tickets for years and years and years. And, during the downtimes, I always used to talk about my one group of friends. They used to have 15 or so season tickets. They gave them up in the mid, 2010s or so, and they finally bought them back this year. And they're back at every game. And what I love is, like, at the Bears game, they left with the 6 seconds left in the game because they're like, oh, the game's over. They're never going to be able to come back, whatever it may be. Just watching this fan base kind of heal from the years of terribleness that this franchise has imposed on them to finally starting to recognize that, hey, when Five has the ball, there's always a chance that you're going to be able to come back and win a football game. And it's been so much fun. On the media side, covering a winning team is obviously a lot of fun. But just listening to radio, being around town, talking to folks, seeing people buy back into this franchise has just been awesome. And I hope that they have a lot to root for in the next, 4 to 6 weeks or so.
I 100% agree. I think of my guy Mark, who's a listener to the show, who I know a little bit, and he'll send me texts of like he and his family, and like he grew up going to games at RFK, and now like he's bringing his teenage kids who for the first time are actually getting to experience good football. Because literally their entire lives have been basically terrible or capped out at mediocre. It's like, yeah, we made the playoffs in 2020 and 2015 where we didn't win double-digit games and didn't really have a chance of winning. Although I guess, man, 2015, hopes were high when they won the NFC East that they could beat that Packers team. And then Deshaun Jackson forgot where the goal line was and things went sideways. We don't need to talk about that. Times are better now. But when you look at
We're not talking about that.
Yeah, no, we're talking about how when Five has the ball, he seems to always be able to find the goal line. And so when you think of Five's performance on Sunday, with some time here to reflect on it, what stands out to you about another performance that I think is pretty spectacular, but is different from many of the other spectacular performances?
Yeah, I mean, what stands out to me is the coolness and calmness that Jayden is under pressure, the final 2 minutes of the game, overtime, all those different things. But big picture, when you look at Sunday was the first time that I saw really Jayden kind of look around a football field and say, I am the best football player on this team, and I'm going to take over this game, and I'm going to win this. I'm going to will this team to victory. And those are the levels of maturation and growth that you want to see from young quarterbacks who are trying to prove that they're quote unquote the guy, or they're going to be your QB1 of the future, whatever, different adjective we've used to describe, quarterbacks in this town for years. And to see a guy with that kind of supreme confidence step up and, do what it takes to get the win, whether it's, running on 4th and 11 for a first down, or finding, Zach Ertz over the middle after, evading a big pressure. It's just watching his growth and seeing it kind of manifest itself into what we saw on Sunday is super important, considering that, the Commanders hadn't beat the Eagles last week, were the only playoff caliber team that they had beaten. But I think you're kind of, when you go out and beat the Falcons or another team that are fighting for a back end playoff spot, you're kind of separating yourself from the mediocre teams to being part of the group of teams that you have to consider good football teams and obviously have super high ceilings as you look towards the future.
I'm so glad you said that, because you get comments or callers or whatever, and people are like, can we just admit they're not that good and they're getting lucky? And I'm like, how many times do you get lucky in an 11-win season? Or at some point do you just go, wow, they keep getting what I think is lucky. Maybe they're actually good at this. And that's kind of where I'm at. And sure, some things have to go right. And that includes other teams making mistakes. Matt Eberflus not realizing that throwing the ball 80 yards is is more difficult than throwing the ball 60. That was a pretty big mistake by the Bears to set up the Hail Mary, but then the Commanders took advantage. Raheem Morris forgetting how timeouts work. Like that was a nice gift, but the Commanders took advantage. And I think that's kind of the NFL. And I think in part, Mitch, just we haven't been around a good team in so long, we forget how it works. But if you watch the Chiefs, if you watch the Bills, if you watch these other teams that are winning, the Ravens year in, year out, this is what they do. They take advantage of bad teams. And so I have no problem saying the Commanders are a good team. And it sounds like you're on the same boat.
Yeah, and listen, it's easy to call the Hail Mary, the Bears Hail Mary, a lucky play, because quite frankly, they are lucky plays. But you look at the Giants game, you look at the last couple of weeks, you look at, what they did against the Eagles, against the Falcons, these fourth quarter comebacks, these late fourth quarter drives that Jayden Daniels is able to put together at some point isn't luck. It's not luck that Patrick Mahomes finds himself in the AFC Championship game every year. It's not luck that they're able to move the ball downfield at will when they need to. I think you can start looking at what's happening in Washington and say, hey, it's not luck that they're able to be as successful as they are in end-of-game situations, because Jayden Daniels is just that good. And, listening to Nick Allegretti after the game talk about Jayden Daniels was super interesting. It's been interesting for me all year because he came from Kansas City. He played with Pat Mahomes. He knows what playing with the best quarterback in the NFL looks like. And he doesn't sit there and compare the two, and I think he goes out of his way to not do that, because I don't think it's a fair comparison yet with Jayden as far as, where he stands in the NFL pantheon. But the rookie season that he's putting together is arguably going to be the best rookie season that any quarterback in NFL history has put together. And there's, arguments, and maybe it's top 5 instead of the best, but nonetheless, it's incredibly impressive, and I think fans need to appreciate what they're watching this season.
Mitch Tischler, co-host of the Beltway Football Podcast, with us here on the Hoffman Show. So, Mitch, on the show last week, I was basically like, look, if their whole mission on the offensive line is to just fire off the ball and try to start hitting people, then maybe they should simplify the run game. They should just run some inside zone, some duo, and let's go hit some people. They tried in the first half, and the answer was, no, they can't do that. Let's go back to the tricky stuff, and they're running trap and bounce and find some things in the second half that get them going a little bit on the ground. Both injury and performance-wise, how concerned are you about the Commanders' offensive line going into the playoffs?
It's funny because I separate offensive line and run game to some extent, because Brandon Coleman had a rough game on Sunday. There's no ifs, ands, or buts or ways around it to talk about it. Matthew Judon got the better of him basically from the first whistle to the last whistle. Rookies are going to have tough games, but I don't think this team is going to be able to run the ball. Clearly can't run the ball particularly well. And I think part of it is O-line. I think part of it is running back related. I think also part of it is, I think they want to give it a shot in the first half, and we've seen now 2 straight weeks where they basically were like, okay, we tried, unable to run, let's go and let Jayden do his thing. We'll go with the 4 wide stuff. We'll go with, getting him on the edges in the pass/run option games. I'm very concerned about the run game. Quite frankly, I'm a little concerned about. I'm probably more concerned about Brian Robinson individually than I am the run game as a whole. I think you saw Chris Rodriguez come in and do some very good things, and quite frankly, I think Chris Rodriguez did some things in that game that we saw Brian Robinson do when he's being successful, and that's understanding that there might only be a 2 or 3 yard game there, but I'm going to, put my head down, get behind my shoulder pads, and try and, push forward for a couple. I think I see B-Rob dancing a little bit, maybe looking for some big plays when they might not be there and not taking, what is there. And that's a big difference because you go from having, 2nd and 7 if you, accept that it's just a 3 yard gain, or if you try and bounce it outside or dance in the hole to try and get something bigger, all of a sudden you're at 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 11, and you're behind the sticks in that role. And I don't know that we're going to see this team go run for 250 yards like we've seen them run, earlier in the season sometimes. But I do think that there's a path to having a serviceable run game that can get you a couple of yards here and there, and most importantly, keeps the defense honest.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Mitch, because I had very similar feelings coming out of the game. And then when I went back and watched the tape and looked at the numbers again, B-Rob was definitely more effective than I remembered. And Chris Rodriguez, like, as I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, this is incredible. And then I go look at the stat sheet. That is the greatest 6 carries for 15 yards a running back has ever had in the NFL. Like, that's all Chris Rodriguez had, but I think his impact and the way he ran it was so impactful. And like a lot of the, he had 16 yards and probably 25 after contact because the looks were so muddy. But I think also it's almost like B-Rob saw Chris Rodriguez hit a couple of runs and he's like, oh yeah, that's how it works. And there's a couple runs in the second half where he just puts his head down and goes. And I think also because this offensive line isn't the best run blocking unit that's just going to move people, the margins of when a hole is open versus when it's closed are so small that you have to just have basically blind faith that that hole is going to open for a fraction of a second and hit it. And it feels like B-Rob, to your like dancing point, sometimes isn't doing that. He's trying to find the hole instead of just trusting that it's going to open up even if it's fleeting. And that's running back in the NFL. And so I'm definitely curious to see if they can get that straightened out. One, like, let's just find some of these looks that they're getting to in the second half that, open up, whether it's Jayden running a little bit more early and just creating a little bit better windows and loosening up a defense. But also, I just wonder if Anthony Lynn and the staff can just be like, hey, Brian, the second half when you just hit it, let's do that every single time, and B-Rob can get back to the way that he looked more consistently earlier in the season.
Absolutely. I think that's going to be an important part of this run game is, like you said, just hitting the holes hard. And if it opens up, great. Hopefully you can get, 6, 7, 8, 9 yards. And then obviously whatever extra you get on top of that, wonderful. If not, fall forward for 2 yards and live to fight another day. But the bigger concern for me with Brian Robinson, though, was in the pass pro.
Yes.
That's an important role. And as you look at some of the attrition that's happened through injury, both in the running back room and I think on the outside, wide receiver blocking as well, the Noah Brown situation, offensive line attrition, you need these guys who are going to step up and be engaged in pass blocking. And it's not that B-Rob wasn't engaged; he just wasn't particularly successful on Sunday. And obviously I think that was a big reason why we started seeing a lot more of the Jeremy McNichols and Chris Rodriguez in there kind of at the end of the first half, beginning of the second half, was because those guys were stepping up and sticking their nose in the middle of those linebackers' chests and getting those blocks. And that's something that B-Rob wasn't as successful with this week. And I'm not going to take a bad game, just like I'm not going to take a bad game from Brandon Coleman and throw the baby out with the bathwater, but it's certainly something that we should keep an eye out as we start moving towards, playoff games.
For sure. It's not like he wasn't trying. He's just bad at it. And that definitely caused some issues. Speaking of being bad at it, Commanders run defense first half, bad at it. Commanders run defense second half, good at it. Part of that is some personnel decisions. They put Deron Payne out on the edge, and that certainly seemed to help. But what else did you see in terms of stopping the run? And do we consider that or the cornerback play the bigger Achilles heel for the Washington defense right now?
The run game is definitely the bigger Achilles heel. I think at this point you have to recognize that the secondary is what the secondary is, and you have to play, understanding that that's going to be a problem. if the run game is a problem and the secondary is a problem, then you both have problems in the pass game and run, and that creates a bigger issue. I come on here each week and I extol the virtues of Joe Witt Jr. because I just think he's doing such an incredible job of adjusting on the fly in games. And, the issues with the run game, I think we saw Deron Payne on the outside a little bit. I think there could be some situations, or should be some situations, where we see maybe J.A. on the outside, John Allen on the outside, or Deron on the outside, kind of just adding a little bit more bulk to the edges so that they can set those edges. That's been the biggest problem is the run, the right side of the Commanders' defense has been extremely poor in the run game, and each week we see teams taking advantage of it. And Saquon Barkley had his 2 big runs, last week to that side. We saw the Falcons come out early and they were running Bijan Robinson over on that side of the defense. I think there's clearly something on tape that teams have seen and they're taking advantage of it. And this is something that we're going to have to see adjustments to. But the fact that 2 straight weeks they've been able to make such a massive in-game adjustment and render an offense almost completely useless in the second half, those are the types of adjustments and changes that happen in games that win you football games in the playoffs. Because you can come in with the greatest plan in the world, but you never know. You never know how the other teams are gonna attack you. And being able to make those on the fly adjustments is super impressive. And I really like this defense when they get ultra aggressive, when they bring extra bodies to the line of scrimmage. Ultimately, I don't think the secondary is going to be able to stop people. Most games if they're asked to cover for 7, 8, 9 seconds in the secondary. So I want to bring those cluster blitzes. I want to bring Frankie Luvu, whether he's on the defensive line or blitzing from a linebacker position coming through. I want to see Jeremy Chin come a little bit. I like seeing some of these different types of blitzes that Joe Witt has started to use. And I think the more pressure you get on the quarterback, the more you're going to help out that secondary. So to me, that's the path for this defense being successful as you get into the playoffs.
Mitch Tischler, co-host of the Beltway Football Podcast, with us here on the Hoffman Show. Yeah, finding a consistent pass rush would be nice. They found it. It's just, can they find some of this stuff from go? These are great adjustments that they're making, but if they can get some of this stuff off the jump and be a little bit better earlier in games, and then let their offense cook a little bit, get out to a lead, like that's the formula where they've blown teams out this year. Obviously, if they've got to find it in the second half, at least the offense has done enough to get them into some of these dogfights, in which they've been able to win some of the dogfights. Last but not least, though, Mitch, I do got to ask on the secondary, hot button issue of the week. If Marshawn Lattimore is unable to go, after we saw what Michael Davis was last week, do you reinsert Benjamin St. Juste into the starting lineup, or do you just roll with Davis and then hope that Lattimore is back for the playoffs?
Well, certainly you hope that Lattimore's back for the playoffs. I mean, that's point number one. As far as BSJ and Michael Davis go, I almost, offensive coaches will ride the running back hot hand. I think you want to ride the not cold hand, not freezing cold hand in your secondary. And I think you're going to see a little bit like we saw on the offensive line with Cornelius Lucas and Brandon Coleman with the rotations. I think if Lattimore's unable to go, I think you see a little bit of the rotation between Davis and Benjamin St. Juste, and hopefully one of them can get hot and play some decent football as we get down the stretch. But if Lattimore is unable to go once you get to the playoffs, you're going to be struggling no matter who you play, no matter what quarterback it is with whatever receiver group, because quite frankly the talent at corner outside of Sainer still and Lattimore is just not there.
Yeah, well, and Sainer still had a pretty miserable week as well, but he's a rookie that's on some level to be expected, and if they can get Lattimore back, then you can give Mikey a hell of a lot more help. Frankly, you give whoever's over there a hell of a lot more help, but Lattimore certainly seems to be the key. Mitchell, Happy New Year, my friend. Thanks so much for coming on the show. We'll do it again next Tuesday as we look forward to a playoff game, which is neat.
The same to you, my friend. I am so excited to get to Dallas, to get to the playoffs, and see what Jayden and company have in store for the NFL.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Have a good rest of your week, and we'll talk to you next Tuesday.
You do the same.
It's Mitch Tischler, everybody, co-host of the Beltway Football Podcast. You can listen to he and JP Finley. We know that guy, too. Multiple days per week. They also do a live stream show on the Monumental Sports app after the game. So you can check out Mitchell and JP's thoughts live from Dallas after the game on Sunday. Of course, we do our own post-game here. We have Doc on the radio. Logan and I do a Take Command post-game stream. This weekend, Logan will be in Dallas, so I don't even know who's joining me for the Take Command post-game stream. Figure that out later in the week, probably after the holiday, because tomorrow's New Year's Day and ain't nobody working. But we appreciate you listening as you're maybe on your way home from work on the last day here of 2024. We'll recap some of our favorite moments of 2024 coming up in just a little bit. But next, you want to know how Jayden Daniels played. Luckily, I talked to Logan, speaking of, about that this morning for Take Command, and we always give you Take Command Tape Tuesday, 5:30. Each and every week of the football season. Take Command Tape Tuesday is next.
With the second pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Washington Commanders select Jayden Daniels.
Jayden Daniels holds the keys to the Commanders' future.
Daniels is going to walk it in for the touchdown.
Take Command holds the keys to knowing how he played.
In the big moment when you needed to make plays, he just consistently made plays.
It's time for a Take Command Tape Tuesday
Jayden Daniels just lays it out there perfectly. What a throw.
on the Hoffman Show.
Well, let's take a final look back at the win over the Falcons in overtime. A game where Jayden Daniels set a whole bunch of records. First quarterback since like Michael Vick to do that. Passes C.J. Stroud on the all-time rookie completions list for a single season. Does this, does that. First 100-yard game since RG3 in 2012 by a Washington quarterback, which is only the second in franchise history. And I think, Logan, when I watch this game, there are some drives where I'm just like, well, that's a Jayden drive. And I know that the narrative was like this was an entire Jayden game. And I do think like there's some other really great stuff that the offense does. But there is just some times where there's nothing going. Offensive line misses a block, missed assignment, goes the wrong way. Or sometimes they made some fixes in this game that I thought were really great along the O-line. We'll talk about those a little bit later. But then guys just didn't execute. You get beat one-on-one, and Jayden's got to make something happen. And he just did it time and time and time again. Made the right reads in the critical moments. Sometimes that read was get the hell out of Dodge and run. And, I mean, I think all of the even though there might be more to the game than just him, all the praise that is being heaped upon him, I think is absolutely valid and worthwhile.
No, I think 100%. I think going back and watching his throws, going back and watching his runs, like it's a big deal performance, you know. And I think there is this tendency to be like, oh, it's him, but you know, football is the ultimate team game, you know. And so there are protection things. The backs did some good stuff from a protection standpoint. You look at OZ and his performance, look at Zach and his performance. I think you got to give credit where it's due. And I think you also got to look at the defense and their ability to kind of stand up in some key moments and make sure that he gets the ball back. And, you know, specifically at the end of the game, right, where you have a 3-and-out kind of in your last two-minute possession of the game. I think there was like a minute left on the clock. Give the ball back to them with 55 seconds. Like, good job. It wasn't the cleanest situation there by the defense, but to stand up, they missed the field goal. You get the ball back in overtime, you go down and score. Like, again, like that's 2 weeks in a row. And we talked about this in the postgame show where the defense kind of gives you a second bite at the apple, and he's able to, to make good on winning the game. So I do think there's Jayden Daniels deserves a ton of credit, but it's always just important for me just to acknowledge the other contributions from guys on the team and guys winning one-on-ones and doing good stuff for sure. But I think, and we're going to talk about this more in a second, this was upon rewatch, kind of a messy football game, offensively and defensively, and a little bit of that's the crew that's officiating the game. But they got lucky. They put themselves in some good spots, some terrible spots. Got bailed out a couple times, and I'm excited to talk about that in more detail as we go through it.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the officiating thing. Again, I'm not going to do another officiating rant, but like I'm uncomfortable with how much the referees inserted themselves in this game, and just wanting seemingly to make calls in big spots, from the PI on Davis at the end to wiping away a touchdown on a Cosme hold. There was another one that went in the Falcons or in the Commanders' favor. I'm trying to remember what it was. One of the penalties where you're just like, that's pretty soft in a key spot. I mean, actually, you know what it was? It was the illegal contact on Ertz down the field, and technically correct call. But that's a pretty soft call on a 3rd and 22 that should have been a drive ender as the Commanders give up a sack, and instead they get a free first down, and then they go on the ugliest 15-play drive in NFL history and have it end in a touchdown. And that drive is actually one that I think is worth mentioning in terms of just kind of making it happen, right? They get the benefit of that call. But on that drive, which is a 15-play drive, there are 4 negative plays, I think, with 3 other or maybe it's 3 negative plays, 4 incompletions. It's 7 or 8 of the plays are negative plays or incompletions where you're going absolutely nowhere. There's a couple of other runs that are not considered successful based off of the success rate statistic. And yet they just find a way. Jayden has a couple of scrambles. And I think the thing sometimes with his scrambles too, Logan, that's really impressive is he just has an ability as a quarterback to process the entire field and have a kind of almost a all 22 bird's eye view. It feels like understanding of where people are. And so there's one scramble, for instance, where they're flooding the left side of the field and it's man coverage. And he knows if we're flooding left and I run, actually, I think they're flooding right. And if I run left and it's man coverage, there's going to be nobody there. And so he sees a crease and knows if I run, if I get out of this, I got a bunch of yards, and he goes and picks up, I think it's a 9-yard scramble. And so the ability to understand where everybody is on the field, how players around him are going to move, I think is just such a special quality. And sometimes it's use that skill to read out a concept and make the right throw. And then other times I feel like he's able to use it to understand where there's big yardage available for him as a runner.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think, his decision-making as a scrambler in this game was pretty good. Obviously he takes a couple sacks trying to get out of the pocket, which you don't love to see. But again, I think the one you're describing is a 3rd and 5, and it just feels so effortless. And it's something that, mobile quarterbacks, scrambling quarterbacks, however you want to, characterize him, they just elevate the floor of the offense. Because on that 3rd and 5, it's a little bit cloudy, there are places where you're maybe if he's really aggressive here, he can throw this football. But I think it's one of the things that I've loved about his game, especially as it's kind of gone through the season, you're getting more familiar with him as an NFL quarterback, is it's hey, I don't have to force this because of my ability to run, and I can get out of the pocket. And I think Brandon Coleman does a good job on that play of kind of collapsing the left end down, kind of just scoots out and I don't know, man. I don't know what it is since the bye. He just looks fresh. He looks fast. Guys are having a hard time dealing with his speed. And he's not he's not like a 4.3 guy, I don't think. But he definitely his athleticism.
Probably a 4.4 guy though.
Well, it was funny. I was talking to some scouts before, and they're like, "Oh, I think he's probably a 4.5, 4.6 guy." And I was like, "Really?" Because he looks so much faster. But I guess the point of it is he plays in a way that you see his athleticism, you see his speed, you see his explosiveness, and it coincides with his decision making, right? There are certain guys, certain scramblers like Michael Vick, for example, who's just faster, right? And he would use it all the time, and that was his way of finding explosive plays in addition to taking shots down the field. Jayden, I feel is a little bit more selective about it, and that is the thing that is his superpower. And you see it on some of these plays where it's 3rd and 5. and he doesn't take a big shot. He gets through, he makes the guy miss, whatever it is. And just in this game, like obviously when you rush for over 100 yards and you don't have a ton of designed quarterback runs, it's because you're making really good decisions as a scrambler. And I didn't go back and chart this, but I think if you go back and look at a lot of his scrambles, they're on 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 2. He's able to get a first down. And so that is something, again, that just brings the floor of the offense up. And we've talked about that a ton, but when you're not playing the cleanest brand of football and you have, like you said, you have a couple incompletions, you have a couple drops, Terry has a drop on that drive, 2 drops on that drive, like it's those are the plays with his legs that elevate the floor. And I think that's kind of the takeaway from the game is they didn't do a great job finding explosive plays. They had some pretty good rushing efficiency at points in the game, but they did have some negative kind of bad neutral runs. And his ability to elevate with his legs, to me, is the story of the game, kind of.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's really impressive about him, and there's certain guys I think of through recent NFL history that are really good at this as well, is he just doesn't seem to take a ton of huge direct hits for as exposed as he is because he runs. I mean, he runs 16 times in this game, and certainly there's some times he gets wrapped up and thrown around, but the scariest hit he takes is obviously the one in the pocket where his knee bends back, and you're just like, okay, I guess you're Patrick Mahomes rubber man too. That's cool. Where Mahomes takes stuff like that and is able to bounce back. But like Russell Wilson was always great at this, and I guess probably still is to an extent. But certainly like prime, younger Russell Wilson, who scrambled a lot more, was always great at just not taking a direct shot. And whether it's you're able to get out of bounds, which he does a couple of times in this one, just that hop skip on the sideline, or just kind of twisting his body at the last second so a guy glances off of him. And man, I will say this: it came up on a couple of other runs too for the running backs. Like the Atlanta Falcons tackling in the secondary. Leaves some to be desired. But they would hit Jayden, they'd hit Chris Rodriguez, they'd hit B-Rob, and they just bounce off. And so it's that ability to – and I will say, like, if we're doing a Falcons show, we're probably pretty ticked about the tackling on that front. By the same token, we're doing a Commander show, and I know that Dan Quinn preaches and they practice breaking tackles. I remember talking to Diami about that earlier this year, and I was like, wait, how do you practice breaking tackles? I always just kind of took for granted that that's a skill that some guys have and some guys don't, but Dan looks at it as a technique. How do I break a tackle?
100%.
And they are good at it. And so I think that point is probably worth mentioning as well, is like there's some times in this game where guys have direct shots at him. He's able to twisting it toward his body and either minimize the impact and then maybe even fall forward and pick up a couple extra yards, or just straight up break a tackle and then make a play out either in the open field or kind of in more condensed space, just dive forward safely for a couple extra yards.
Yeah, no, I think that's 100% right. And the technique of breaking a tackle is a big thing. And you see him execute it. I think a lot of people say, like just the simplest version is like when imagine you're playing tag with somebody, right? And you try to run away from them and they can just kind of run on the same angle with you and tag you. That's like what a lot of younger, like high school level, Pop Warner level players do. They think I'm fast, I'm just going to run away. But a good tackle breaker, and backs do this too. When you watch, I think this is something Bijan Robinson has evolved over the past couple seasons from his rookie year to this season, is you want to square up the tackler. People say, what? It's like you want to run right at the tackler, and when they stop their feet, then you have the advantage, right? Because they have to break down if they're going to hit you, right? So then I can work half a man. I can work right and left shoulder on the tackler, or I can kind of work a double stick and work to a speed kind of move. And I think when you watch Jayden, he has a pretty good feel for like, hey, we're square. Now I'm breaking leverages. Now I'm kind of forcing you out of a tough spot. And so, again, you see some of that. I think you saw more of that in this game than you've seen over the course of the year. And I think especially on the last drive of the game, the overtime drive, like he just kind of was like a little bit like devil may care in terms of like taking shots and like kind of trying to break tackles. And, Fletch on the broadcast is always like, man, he plays stronger than you would think, his ability to break tackles. But a lot of it is because he is good. He has a good feel for not taking those direct shots off the square setup that we just talked about. And he makes plays. And I think that's cool. And it's good to see him not taking big hits, but also it was also cool, I thought, to see him kind of ramp it up and be like, I'm okay with taking some shots here because this is a playoff game, game's on the line. Let's get this thing done. And again, to see him understand the difference, I think shows a lot of maturity on his part.
Last thing for Jayden before we kind of zoom out to the rest of the offense, and there's a lot of stuff to talk about there as well. We talked about the number of scrambles. Do you think he left, and sacks, frankly, is this stuff that he's leaving on the table as a thrower, or was this just the nature of the game that he actually did, like in terms of efficiency of what was available to him, not necessarily the offense? Obviously, like if you're taking on pressure, the offensive line theoretically should have been able to pick it up. So we can talk about that in a second. But in terms of what was available to him, do we feel like he maximized what was available?
Yeah, that's a really good question. One that's kind of unknowable, honestly. And I'm going to give you my take on it. Like, there's a couple times where you're watching, 3rd and 5, 2nd and 5, and there's a deep crosser coming across the field. And they ran this concept pretty well. So they get like a shallow cross or a flat, and you get a post kind of clearing something out, and then you get that that kind of intermediate crosser coming across the field. And oftentimes I was like, you could probably make this throw, right? You could probably be really aggressive here. Like, this is NFL open. I feel like the underneath hook players are kind of attaching to the underneath flat or shallow cross. Like, put a little air on this thing and drop this in the bucket. That being said, on all of those times when that player was open, and again, it's a tight window. Like, I want to make it very clear. It's not like you're getting a dude running wide open in secondary. It's
right.
Like they played a lot of man. The defender's in pretty close relationship, and it's like, do I love this? I don't know. Let's scramble. And I think that was the thing that I came out of it, was like his scrambling decisions led to first downs. And ultimately, that's the goal, right? Is to possess the football and stay on the field. So if he's making bad decisions as a scramblers and running into sacks or running for no gain, then we're going to have a conversation like, hey man, you got to sit in there and throw this ball. But if and that's kind of the double-edged sword of having a scrambling quarterback. If that's Tom Brady's throwing that ball, right? But that's Tom Brady's superpower. Jayden Daniels, at this point in his career, that's not his superpower just yet. He does some really good stuff. Like, I know Jamison Crowder's wide open underneath, but on that throw to Zach Ertz in the end zone,
dude,
like that is a big-time, tight window, red zone NFL throw. Like, that is a nice throw. And I understand why he does it, because you kind of see I think it's the safety. They're kind of matching the 2x2. He's like in between for a second. And so I don't hate that he bypasses Jameson to go to Zach on that. Doesn't bother me at all. But
it looks also way worse after he makes that throw so decisively that by the time the safety does anything, he's back in Zach's lap. And so Jameson looks extra wide open. But at the time that he makes that decision, it is a much muddier decision. And thus, there is the opportunity to hit Zach for a touchdown. And I don't even know if you can count that as a miss. I mean, the ball goes off Zach's hands. Tough catch, but goes off his hands.
I actually counted as like a big-time throw. Like, because the tight window, the proximity of the defender. But my point, bringing that up, is he does do that. He does have the ability to get that done. I think the drop by OZ in the 2-minute drive before the end of the game, like, that's a tight window throw over the middle of the field. That's a really nice job. But on the other ones where he kind of chooses to bypass, he's scrambling for first downs and possessing the ball. And on that 15-play drive, like, you're staying on the field. And I think ultimately that's what you're looking for. And again, if he was making worse decisions in those moments, I would be more critical of it. But I also think, like, this is who he is as a player, and this is what he's good at. And I'm going to lean into this as a coach. And I think you see Cliff doing that a little bit. Yeah,
I think he missed throws accuracy wise more than he missed opportunities in this game. Like, there's a couple of those too that you talked about, some of those crossers where you pause the tape and you're like, why isn't this ball out? And you're like, oh, because he's in scramble posture.
Yeah.
So there's some pressure, and like you said, you'd rather leave a half second early than a half second late, and you go scramble, get the first down. And I think sometimes part of being a great scrambler is being really decisive. But like on that 15-play drive, he misses like a swing pass to Jeremy McNichols. They did run that fake screen to Crowder, and he throws it just a touch behind him. That's a tough one because the window's really tight. But like, that's a throw that he has hit at times this year.
And Jameson probably could catch that, but again, like, he makes it harder than Jayden makes it harder than it needs to for both people. You know what I mean? He kind of has like this weird back shoulder, and
Yeah, so there's a couple of throws like that where you're just like, oh, that's weird. I mean, the pick, that's a hell of a defensive play. That's a great design. But he handled it way better later in the game as they continue to run that pressure, and they also changed up some of the protection there. So I just think that.
But also to your point, like, you know, he has the slant to Terry on that 15-play drive, which is just a little bit out in front. And I know Terry would tell you he's got to make that play 100%. And then they come back, I want to say it's like 2 plays later, and they run that dig over the middle of the field to Terry. And great job by Jayden getting where you're supposed to go, but that ball is a little bit far out in front. And, you know, Bram brought this up because, you know, Terry had like limited practice this in the week because of the ankle or whatever. And maybe they're just the timing's a little bit off. But yeah, like there's 2 examples where we're just not quite on the same page with Terry and we don't get completions there. So is that an accuracy thing? Is that a thing with Terry? I don't know. But I do think the Jameson one's a really good example too of like, hey, like this is one you've made. We just kind of missed it. And over the course of the last couple of weeks, he has those throws. But again, every quarterback, when you watch them, has misses. It just depends on the frequency and whether you can live with the variance of their incompletion percentage.
Yeah, and also, how do you make up for it? And you do things like you do on the Ertz 37-yarder where he creates something out of nothing, and then Zach rumbles down the field for the big gain. But like that should be a sack, and it's not. And so I think overall, his ability to create, and also as we're going to talk about now, like the options Cliff has as a play caller because of his mobility to get you out of some ruts, I think are pretty major as well.
Yeah, I mean, and then the 4th down decision making too. I think that's the other thing. Is obviously there's the 4th and 2 where they kind of have that design boot rollout, which is to my eye, it's not personnel wise the same play as the New Orleans game. Remember how they called that play down the red zone, but from a execution, like you probably call that play the same thing. You just have different people in, and great job by Bryson Tremaine sealing that edge off. But like, you see like how you execute the correct technique, you get a first down. Then there's the 4th and 5 where McNichols makes sure he chips out on the right guy. Everyone clears out, gets the ball where it's got to go. Because again, like tight windows in the back end there because of how they're playing that coverage wise. So, and again, he's not scrambling in that situation, but just making good decisions, kind of to your point, like as a scrambler, when to throw, what can I get away with? And a great execution by McNichols on that play specifically to kind of figure it out. Then there's the one in the red zone where they score the touchdown to OZ, which is also a 4th and 2, I want to say. Yep. And again, like great call because you're getting your guy on the perimeter as a runner, but you give him opportunities to throw football. And talk about just a tremendous throw. Like,
oh my God, I'm glad you brought up that point. That throw is ridiculous. He's rolling to his left and sidearm like contorts his body. I don't know how he makes that throw.
Yeah, the ability to just generate enough torque in your upper body while you're running, like you're sprinting to your left and kind of get that whip of the wrist. Like it was really impressive that the ball got there even, you know, because I was standing, you know, obviously you watch the L22, but I was standing right behind, like in the end zone basically. And I was like, there's no way he's going to be able to get this ball here because he's too far ahead of the receiver. He's in bad relationship. And so great job by
He's got to throw around a guy.
Yeah.
Like that's the other part is like that ball's got to be sidearmed, not just because of kind of his body position, but like he's got to get that back to the receiver. Like you said, he's too far ahead and there's a guy right in front of him. So he's got to throw it like back to his right running left. It is a sick throw.
Yeah, no, 100%. And again, like to the original point about Cliff kind of using him as a runner, like think about that in those 4th down situations. And obviously on the one of McNichols, it's not, but he's making a good decision as a passer because he could scramble if he wanted to. And I think that's where you feel comfortable going for it on 4th down is, you know, hey, if the play isn't there, we've got a guy who's special. And you think back to the New Orleans game on some of those 4th downs where he's jiving over the pile and making things happen for you. Like, He's been excellent in those moments, and Cliff definitely is calling plays in those moments specifically where he can be a runner and a thrower, and I think that's exactly what you want to be moments. And it is special. It is special because he's a special athlete, but also great by the play caller of understanding like what he does well and how to maximize the offense in those high leverage moments.
And the head coach to say,
yeah,
go. That was what I was hoping for a couple weeks ago. I kept saying, like, I want a little more Dan Campbell in my Dan Quinn. I want a guy who goes, we have the best player on the field. We trust him on 4th down. And in this game, time and time again, Dan was just like, go. 4th and 5, 4th and 2, 4th and 1. And the ball was consistently in Jayden's hands in those spots. And he made him right every single time. I think they're now 19 of 22 on the year on 4th down.
Just want them to know that
It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. It is our final hour of radio in 2024, and we're going to spend quite a bit of it, actually, coming up in about 15 minutes, just reliving some of our favorite moments of 2024, Anthony. And boy, were there some good ones. Think of all the stuff that we did this year. Just to think of the different places that I did the show. That actually would have been a fun thing. Maybe I'll try to do that in the break. I'm going to try to think of every single different place that I did the radio show in 2024. We might get to double digits.
There's a handful. No, more than a handful, sorry.
Yeah,
more than
there's definitely more than a handful. The question is, are there more than two handfuls? Do we run out of fingers? Do we need to go to our toes? That and more. Plus, some very funny things that happened, including just some of the greatest calls in the history of sports radio. Still coming up in about 10 minutes from right now. But, Anthony, there's business to handle because it is 6 o'clock. It is Tuesday. And that, my friend, is when we hit our NFL tier rankings. So, if you would, please the honors. Thank you very much. Let's dive into it one final time. As a reminder, we have 4 original tiers plus a 5th tier. The 4 originals are prime contenders. Prime is defined as a team that we think can win the Super Bowl. If I tell you this team is a Super Bowl champion, your face should not turn into absolute shock. Puncher's chance, well, it's the next tier down. They have a chance, but it would be shocking if they ultimately pulled it off. Really more of a team that is a legitimate threat to pull a first-round upset. Interesting, but not quite good enough. They are like, hey, we care about this team for some reason, but probably they're not really good enough to win a playoff game. Even some teams, frankly, that are going to make the playoffs, I might be willing to slide into this tier for the final rankings if I think they legitimately have no shot. Hello, Houston Texans, looking at you. No chance in hell. These are the teams that just never had a shot at anything. And this was our bottom tier until we had to invent something lower than that, which we call actual hell, a tier we invented for the New York Jets. Although they have company. All right, so with that, Anthony, we're pretty much set. There's not going to be a lot of movement, which is why this segment that typically took us 2 radio segments earlier in the year can now be done fairly quickly. But I do think there's a couple of discussion points that are worth throwing in here. First, in the prime contender category, there is a team that no longer belongs here, in my opinion. The Chiefs, Ravens, Lions, Bills, Eagles, Packers, and Vikings were the teams that we had down entering this week. I think the Packers are a tier below this. I just do not think they have the star power to really belong with these other teams. Who's the best player on the Green Bay Packers outside of Jordan Love?
Josh Jacobs, pretty good.
He's pretty good. Is he moving the needle for you in a playoff game?
I mean, he toted the rock well on Sunday.
And how'd that go?
I mean, they end up losing, but also, Craig, they are without Christian Watson. Again, it was another 2-point game. It came with Cam Akers making a shoestring grab, picking up the first down to get the dub.
But, like, that game also got – they were dominated for 3 quarters.
They were.
Like, they, to me, are a much more – like, they belong in the neighborhood of a team like the Commanders, that their quarterback can elevate them, and they can get hot, and they absolutely can make a run in the playoffs. They're probably the best team in the next tier. But I think they more belong in the next tier because, okay, Josh Jacobs, he's pretty good, but is he a top 3? Like, is he a blue chip guy? No. It's Saquon, it's Derrick Henry, Bijan Robinson. Like, Josh Jacobs is not quite at that level. He's really good, he's really close, but he's not at that level. Compared to, who's the best player that's not Pat Mahomes on the Chiefs? Chris Jones is arguably the best defensive player in all of football. Who's the best player that's not Lamar Jackson on the Ravens? Derrick Henry, arguably the best running back in all of football. The Lions, star-studded. Bills, Josh Allen. I mean, maybe the Bills belong down, but Josh Allen's so good that he's Josh Allen. Eagles, we know their talent. Vikings, JJ, like, come on. And Darnold's actually playing at like a top 10 level this year. And he's gotten better and better and better as the year has gone by. And so I think the lack of playmakers and, like, who's the best player on their defense? Like, it was supposed to be Rashawn Gary, but he hadn't been that good.
You got Xavier McKinney. He's second in the league
solid.
In interceptions.
Sure, the production stat, but like down in, down out, he's not as good as some of the other top safeties in the league.
I mean,
like, he's a tier 2. There's nothing wrong with being a tier 2 player, but he's a tier 2 player. He's not making all pro. Pro Bowl, maybe.
He might. Like Craig, he has 7 interceptions on the year. Kirby just got 2 yesterday. So I think Kirby will probably get over just because he actually does lead the league.
Is he a better player than, like, Derwin James?
Yeah.
You saying he is a better player than Derwin James?
I wouldn't necessarily say he's a better. I think their play styles are different, though.
No, they definitely are. But, like, is he 2 years ago Justin Simmons? Is he better than Jesse Bates?
I wouldn't say he's better than Jesse. I think Jesse Bates is arguably the best safety in football.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So the pack. Look,
tier 2. I would agree. Tier 2 then. Tier 2.
I'm gonna take the Packers. I'm gonna put them down. Because also, have they beaten any of those teams?
No.
And they've had 4 chances between the Lions and the Vikings.
Oh, yeah, those are all their losses.
And they also lost to the Eagles week 1 in Brazil.
They have 5 losses? Oh, yeah, they do have 5 losses. Yeah. Never mind. Yeah, you are right.
So there's that. All right, puncher's chance. Packers, Commanders, Chargers, Broncos, Seahawks. We'll say bye to them in a second. Rams, Bucks, Texans, reluctantly because they want a poop division, and Steelers. Like, the Packers and Steelers are a good comparison, right? Yeah, I think that they're different stylistically. Packers are way more boom or bust, where the Steelers have a low ceiling. But, like, does the Steelers being in puncher's chance make you feel better about the Packers being in puncher's chance?
Yes, they do. Yes, it does.
Okay. The Seattle Seahawks, you have to go. You've been eliminated. Sorry. And honestly, you can even stay in interesting, but not quite good enough. You just weren't good enough. You were close, but no cigar. I'm moving the Texans down. I'm sick of the Texans. I know they won their division. I know they're making the playoffs. Do you realize how significant? Like, there's a good chance that the Texans are going to be dogs, and possibly, like, depending on who they play. Who are they scheduled to play right now? The Steelers?
The 2 seed is the Ravens, I think.
Well, no, because the Texans will host a playoff game.
Oh, yeah. Steelers.
So, hold on. ESPN. NFL.com/NFL/standings. Right now, the Houston Texans are scheduled to, in the first round, play the 5-seeded Steelers. If I tell you George Pickens is playing, would you be, and TJ Watt's healthy, are the Steelers double-digit favorites over the Texans right now? That's probably too large, but it's probably like 5.5 or 6.
Yeah, it'll probably be something like that.
And they're hosting the game. They got no shot of doing. Maybe they can pull off one, but there's no chance they're doing anything for real. They're not good.
I feel like in the playoffs, so you pull out all the tricks. So it'll probably be a close first half, second
What
half.
What tricks do they have? Their last game was on Christmas, and they lost 31-2.
Yeah, that was embarrassing.
In front of Beyonce.
Yeah.
No thanks. I'm executive decision. They're out. Puncher's chance. Chargers, you're good. Broncos, reluctantly, I'm going to keep them there for now because their defense is really good when it's not having to face Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Joe Burrow. Rams.
Rams might as well be in puncher's chance.
I mean, that's what the Rams are in puncher's chance.
Oh, yeah. I'm about to say
Bucks, same thing. If they are, man, their haymaker's big. It's a big, big haymaker right hand that Baker Mayfield's got. And the Steelers, because their defense will keep them in every game they play. Interesting, but not quite good enough. Falcons, Bengals, Seahawks, Texans. Falcons, they're technically still alive. Bengals are still alive. Seahawks, you're eliminated, but you hung on long enough that we're just going to keep you there because you don't really belong with the drudges of the NFL. This is a very not middle-class year, if you will. You're either poor or you're rich in the NFL this year. And the Seahawks somehow are hanging on in the middle class, and the Texans, because they won. Otherwise, I'd put them in no chance. Panthers, they really fell apart. Patriots, they're bad because they're expected to be. The Saints, are the Saints back in actual hell? They lost to the Raiders convincingly. At home.
Yeah. They're bad.
Sorry, Saints. You've been downgraded. Cowboys. They got smoked. But they're banged up.
I mean, if you ask Michael Parsons, he said if you just take away the scoreboard, it wasn't that bad, correct?
Welcome to the NFL, bro. 5 bad plays, a lot of bad plays in a game. And Micah knows that. The Colts.
Man.
Honestly, even though the Colts are way better than a lot of these other teams, the Colts are in actual hell.
Yeah,
that is the punishment you get for losing to the New York Giants. Oh, my God. The Dolphins, I guess we technically have to move them up. They're still alive for the playoffs.
Yeah, they are. They win, and the Broncos lose. They're in.
So, Dolphins, congrats. You're up. Cardinals and Niners, no chance. That's fine with me. I'm good with those teams in there. Good for the 49ers for fighting last night, even though you lost to probably the best team in football. Actual hell, the Jets, the Giants, the Titans, the Raiders, the Jags, the Browns, the Bears, the Saints. I'm going to move the Jags out of actual hell. Because you want to know what? They're fighting, they're feisty, and even though they're going to need a new coach and new GM and a whole bunch of stuff, Brian Thomas Jr. is nasty. They got their first-round pick really, 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 really right. Like, he is on a list now with, I think it's 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns. You know the other 3 receivers to do that in NFL history in their rookie year?
I don't.
Jamar, Randy Moss, and Odell Beckham.
Good gracious.
That's it. That's the list. That's where Brian Thomas Jr. is. So I'm going to say, Jags, congrats. You just have no chance, but you're not in actual hell. All right, that's our NFL tiers. Final edition of the season. We're going to have fun for the rest of the show. So I hope you enjoy fun. We're going to look back at some of our favorite moments and the biggest storylines of 2024. But first, let's get an update on the latest in the world of women's sports presented by Wawa. Chicken how you wanna at Wawa with customizable, crispy, or roasted chicken sandwiches. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We are streaming live on YouTube as well at the Team 980. And I think that's probably the song of the year, Anthony, as we wrap up 2024.
It's got to be, man. It sent waves all over the world, and people are still playing it. It was a summer hit. It's a winter hit. It'll be a spring hit. It's a timeless song, Craig.
Yeah, I just searched like top songs of 2024. Variety has it as that as well. Chapel Roan, Good Luck Babe is one. I would have probably said HOTTOGO because that's just on repeat everywhere you go.
HOTTO go?
Yeah, the HOTTOGO. That song. Chapel Roan. You've heard it at every arena. You've heard it on TikTok. You've heard it on every social media platform. Everyone does the dance.
I think so.
Yeah, you know it.
I'm going to look it up in a break.
Sabrina Carpenter, Please, Please, Please. They have it number 3.
Like that song.
Taylor Swift, Who's Afraid of Little Old Me. Charlie XCX had a couple. They have Von Dutch as the song, but, I mean, Brat just was a monster album. Hozier, Too Sweet. That's such a good song.
Hozier, Too Sweet?
Yeah. Beyonce obviously had a Cowboy Carter album. They picked Yaya as their top one off there. God, what is this ad? Go away. Billie Eilish, The Greatest. Ariana Grande had some music. Dua Lipa. So on down the list. But yeah, Kendrick's number 1. Easily just it was beyond a song. It's a cultural moment. And in fact, that actually launches us very nicely, Anthony, into our moments of the year and some of our favorite moments from the show in 2024. Coming up next, we have some of our favorite calls of the year, absolute classics in the history of the show. Did we ever find Marvin? Did we ever find his call? You got to see. I don't know if that was on the list, but I know it's somewhere it's in a folder somewhere. But Gary, his epic call when he was angry. We had of course Shane from Oxon Hill, which is probably the most legendary song or caller in the history of the show. But I mean, Kendrick murdering Drake did set up one of our favorite guest appearances of the year at the end of one of our hits with best friend of the show, Clinton Yates. Things got just a little bit sideways, and old Drizzy caught a stray.
Strawman. That'd be a great team name for like a team in a league. Call your team the Strawman and just see what kind of people show up as your fans. That'd be awesome.
That would be good. This is actually the team that should face the Harlem Globetrotters.
Exactly. That's a good call, by the way.
Where should they be from?
Probably DC. The single best part about the WNBA right now, and for my personal enjoyment, of course, is like Big Ellie turning into like people finally realizing how great of a character Big Ellie is, and it gives us the resurgence of one of the most ridiculous songs in the history of all time, which is LL Cool J's Head Sprung. They call me Big Ellie. Like, no, they don't. They don't call you that, Todd. Nobody calls you Big Ellie. My grandma watches you on NCIS or whatever show that is every single night. But Ellie's the best.
By the way, this is a segment we should do at some point this summer.
Okay.
Most transformational rappers, and by transformational I mean LL into being a TV star on a like NCIS comedy. We got Snoop doing kids records, and he's going to be a coach on The Voice next season.
Yeah, that's true. Will Smith is obviously the OG of that on some level. Ice-T is obviously still big. But let me tell you, let me leave you with this, kiddos. You know who did not do that and who should have done that and is going to regret every day that they did make that transition into real showbiz life, and instead they're too busy rapping on microphones, making fools of themselves? All together, kids. BBL Drizzy. BBL Drizzy. BBL Drizzy. Goodbye, Gregory.
Goodbye. Listen to Clinton on ESPN Daily and do it daily.
Daily.
See, Anthony, you know this song.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, everybody knows this song. Definitely one of the songs of the year. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. Wrapping up our year with you. Also live, of course, on the free Odyssey app and streaming on YouTube at the Team 980. So we are looking back at some of our favorite moments of the year because it's what you do at the end of the year. And boy, did we have some good ones. So we will get to some of our favorite guests of the year and some of the favorite stories that were told on the show by guests, including an incredible Cliff Kingsbury story from Sam Fortier. And when we got to, on Super Bowl Radio Row, tell Kevin Harlan about the origin of Real Things Real People Said in Real Microphones. So that's coming up in 15 minutes. But right now, Anthony, I want to get through the calls of the year and then also my petty moment of the year and the legend of the Curse of Haney. Because, God, there's just so much good stuff. We could have done this for the entire 3 hours today. But let's start off with some of our calls of the year. First up was Gary. And Gary's called back to the show a lot. Gary's in Upper Marlboro. I get the sense that Gary is a pure radio listener because some folks consume the show on multiple platforms. And I remember when Gary called back after this call for the first time, and he's like, "You might remember me." And I'm like, "I don't think you know that you're an internet superstar," because his call went viral on my YouTube page. And Gary was just angry. This is before the season, before things turned well. He had some doubts, and this was Gary's call. Let's go to Gary. Gary, what's up, man? How do you like the move so far?
Well, I want them to get better, but the fact of the matter is I don't think that they've moved the needle a lot, okay? For all the money that they've had and all the cap space that they've had, I think they went out and got a bunch of average players.
What would you expect them to do to have gotten out of the hole that they are currently in?
They could have gone out and gotten Patrick Queen. I think Patrick Queen was
What position
was a
does
great
Patrick
player.
Queen play?
We take these guys one by one. Dorrance Armstrong is an average player. Okay,
He would have led the Commanders in sacks last year. Next,
I like Jeremy Chin. I like the middle linebacker. But all these other guys, if you put them on the roster last year, they're still a 4-13 team.
Okay, well, I think your hopes were very, very outlandish, and you have no ability to see beyond what is 2 feet in front of your face. That was probably a little bit rude of me, but I also wasn't wrong. Dorrance Armstrong's been fine. More than fine. He's been good. That's not the point of this. The point is to have fun. No one was more wrong about anything, though, than Shane and Oxon Hill. This is the winner. We're just playing some of our favorite calls. Because if we had... Should we even save Shane, Anthony? Should I just go straight to Shane? I feel like he's the correct person to follow Gary here. But, take Gary's call, make it more ridiculous, more angry, and more cartoonish. And ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've all been waiting for, Shane and Oxon Hill.
The guy had 11 touchdowns over the past 2 years. Terry McLaurin has 9. Olamide Zaccheaus had 10 catches last year. Diami Brown had 100 yards last year. Are we a better team without Jahan Dotson? No, we're not. So stop all the baloney, man. We traded Montez Sweat, and now we have Cleveland Ferrell, who had 2 sacks. And Dante Fowler, who had 2 sacks. We have Austin Eckler, who is 30 years old. Come on, bro. Kendall Fuller is in Miami. Curtis Samuel is in Buffalo. Cam Curl is in with the Rams. And we have a guy, Adam Peters, who's bringing in bums. And everybody's like, oh, just because we're bringing in new faces mean we're better.
Guys saw a 4-13 roster and thought all the guys that were leaving were good. All the guys that came in were bad. And his tipping point, his boiling point, the thing that sent him over the edge was the, to quote him, Jahan Dotson trade.
Yeah. Jahan Dotson really did it to him.
I still don't know what's worse, the take or the pronunciations. Anthony, run it back one more time. Run it back one more time.
The guy had 11 touchdowns over the past 2 years. Terry McLaurin.
Pause it there. Pause it there. This is the best part about this call. Every time we play it, it gets better. Terry McLaurin currently has 12 touchdowns this season, which is tied for the franchise record. But please, tell me more about the pass.
9. Olamide Zaccheaus had 10 catches last year.
Olamide Zaccheaus. Hold on, pause, Anthony. This is getting better by the second. How many catches did Olamide Zaccheaus have on Sunday alone? He had 8. Next.
year. Diami Brown had 100 yards last year. Are we a better team without Jahan Dotson? No, we're not. So stop all the baloney, man. We traded Montez Sweat, and now we have Cleveland Ferrell, who had 2 sacks, and Dante Fowler, who had 2
pause.
sacks.
I am impressed that he said Cleveland Ferrell's name right. So congratulations, Shane and Oxon Hill. You got one thing right.
He had 2 sacks. And Dante Fowler, who had 2 sacks. We have Austin Eckler, who is 30 years old. Like, come on, bro. Kendall Fuller is in Miami. Curtis Samuel is in Buffalo. Cam Curl is in with the Rams. And we have a guy, Adam Peters, who's bringing in bums. And everybody's like, oh, just because we're bringing in new faces mean we're better.
Amazing. No notes. Speaking of angry calls, Anthony, how's Marvin doing? Marvin, who called in like last week. And I was happy to report Marvin goes, well, I'm glad I wasn't the GM, and I had to tell Marvin that everyone else is glad too. This is the call of why.
Let's go to Marvin in Landover. Marvin.
Hey, look, man, I think the grade that I'm going to give is a D-.
Wow.
And you have a quarterback, and I love that pick, and that's an A+. But everything then should be hell-bent on making sure that this guy has the best chance to survive. I honestly thought Sanat was like a super reach. It made me feel like watching Ron draft again.
They got 2 players, one in Sanat, who you can use as an inline blocker to help your tackles.
No. That's not true.
Whether it satisfies your needs.
Sanat's not a blocker.
Yes, he is.
Sanat's a pass catcher. No,
he's a blocker.
He's more of an H-back.
What do you think an H-back is?
Yeah, H-back is kind of like a hybrid fullback, hybrid.
Yeah. You know what a fullback does, Marvin?
Yeah, the 6'1", 241 who wear neck braces. Yeah, those are fullbacks.
He's 6'3", 250.
Oh, my gosh, man.
The funny thing is, like, Ben Sinnott, which we now know, that was like the day after the draft. We now know that Ben Sinnott, properly pronounced Sinnott, has been a questionable pick at times. It's not because he's a pass catcher who can't block. It seems that he's a blocker who really struggles with his route running. And I love that at every turn, he just ran face first into the wall. Hey, he's this. No, he's that. Oh, he's not big enough. He's actually bigger. He does this. Oh, you mean the thing that you said he can't do? A+, no notes. A+, no notes.
Listening back to these really has me in tears because I remember the back and forths and I love it.
It's so good. Ross in Tampa did not have a back and forth with us. No, Ross had a story for us. This is a separate category and gets its own award. Look, Shane's call of the year. But Marvin was a tougher contender than I thought. God, that was a bad call. Good call of the year, ladies and gentlemen, Ross in Tampa.
Imagine a not so big, but an older, meaner-looking version of Morgan Moses in a black suit approaching you, not so happy.
Not an ideal situation.
No, not at all. And all I got to defend myself is pepper spray. But as a 6'1", 250-pound dude, I'm not confident I can handle myself with 3 of these guys. So I just go up to him like, hey, what's the issue? And he's like, I heard you were disrespecting one of my women. And I'm like, excuse me? And then so he basically told me everything that he told me about all of this. He said you're laughing at him. Man, Craig, I about broke my neck when I switched my head to show him the earbud. I know I'm pointing at my earbud. No, dude, I'm listening to the radio show. I would never laugh at any of your women. And then we all laughed about it, and it was a big misunderstanding. And then they let me go about my way.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Ross in Tampa, who we almost got beaten up because he was listening to the show on his job where he's a delivery driver and he was delivering to a strip club where a bouncer thought he was laughing at one of the women who was walking into work. That is a real story.
Who's he laughing at, me or you?
I mean,
I would think you.
Yeah, I mean, I do talk more.
We got to blame you, Craig.
My bad. He wasn't laughing at anybody except for me, which is a very different and appropriate thing to do than laughing at a lady going into work. So there's that. Then this wasn't a call. This was an interaction with fans in a different way. The Chicago Bears fan base got sideways before their team did. They got lost and they got into our comments the week of the Bears game and just said all kinds of silly nonsense about all kinds of things, and Caleb this, and calling the Commanders a poverty franchise, like the Bears aren't a poverty franchise. And by the end of the week, I'd had enough. And so when the Commanders beat the Bears, Anthony, are we going to play my rant from the show or from Take Command postgame? Which one did you pick?
I think I got the one Take Command postgame with Logan.
Yeah, there's a longer version on the internet where I throw just incredible insults at the Bears, including the simple fact that their all-time leading passer is Jay Cutler. But I had enough. And so riding the highs of the Hail Mary postgame, this was what they call in the business a direct-to-camera message that won me being the petty radio host of the year.
Bears fans.
Oh, you're going to be petty to Bears fans.
You were miserable all week to deal with. I've been doing this for over 10 years in total. I realized during most of that time, this has been a sad sack franchise that probably hasn't had a lot of other fan bases.
Is this on the radio show?
This is in the YouTube comments. This is on Twitter. This is on TikTok. This is on YouTube.
Nice.
This is everywhere. Y'all were loud as hell this week. You were miserable. Enjoy being miserable the rest of the week because you lost on a Hail Mary. Goodbye. That's our show.
It's pretty petty.
No regrets.
They've been miserable ever since.
And they haven't won a game since. They thought losing on a Hail Mary and having to deal with the petty old me was bad. Guess what, Bears fans? Sucks to suck. You earned it. By the way, Falcons fans, I hope you're next because, God, you were miserable last week. And then everything that I talked about with your quarterback came true. So, thumbs up. Thumbs up. By the way, you still don't have a pass rush. All right, when we get back, the curse of Haney. That is one of the tales that was told, and one that was solved by a guest of the show. Also, some of the best other guest moments of the year, including a tremendous Cliff Kingsbury story from Sam Fortier on the day that he was hired. Then a final edition of Real Things Real People Said in Real Microphones here on The Hoffman Show. It's the Hoffman Show wrapping up here in 2024, a final edition of Real Things, including a really, really tremendous one that might wind up in the Real Things Hall of Fame, to be honest. It's that good. Coming up, before the end of the show. We continue, though, counting down. Not really counting down, because we're not doing numbers. We're just reliving, reminiscing, having a good time, looking back, listening back to some of the best moments of the year on the show. And this was a worst moment turned into a best moment that was genuinely hilarious the entire time. The Curse of Anthony Haney was one of the defining storylines of 2024 in the Hoffman Show universe. And there got to a point this summer where we just had to figure out how bad it was. About the curse itself. How deep does... I think we need to talk about the curse itself. How deep does this run?
I really wish I could explain the curse. I don't get it. I feel like when I have a good day, it's sort of kind of like, every squirrel finds a nut. I just think I'm the blind squirrel.
When was the last time you went to a sporting event where the team you were rooting for won?
This goes back to the NFL season. I went to go see Zaire play against the Texans. They lost. I went to another one of his games last year, and they lost. I went to a Maryland football game, was rooting for them. They lost.
The Mystics lost, and you were there on Saturday.
And the Mystics game I went to when they played the Liberty, they lost.
Mystics in the summer last year? Did you go to any Mystics games that they won last year?
No. Maybe it's me. Oh, my God.
It was bad, Anthony. We're talking like a 2-year streak. And we had to discover this before we decided if we were going to let you back at Audi Field, because you had actually been at a game that the Spirit were losing, and the second you left, they tied and then eventually won the game, I believe is how that went down. And so we had to put it, we couldn't simply just take this into our own hands. It was too big of a responsibility. So we welcomed none other than eventual NWSL Rookie of the Year and U.S. Olympian Croy Bethune on the show to decide if Anthony would be allowed to go back to his second ever Spirit game. Croy, are we willing to give Anthony Haney another chance at a Spirit game?
Of course. I mean, we love all of our Spirit fans. Come on back.
There you go, Ant. You're welcome back. I'll see you at Audi Field tomorrow.
I'm back, baby! Sanchez took it away. Fires it off Kingsbury and in. Off the hands of Aubrey. Kingsbury 1-0. Sanchez returns to Audi Field with a big goal.
And then you were banned. You were banned for the rest of the season.
Understood, man.
However,
deservedly so.
However, we went to a Mystics game eventually, and we chose strategically. We went to a game against the LA Sparks, who were also terrible, and that was the point where the Mystics were actually playing pretty good ball, and they won. And then lo and behold, Anthony, you have been to 3 Commanders games this year. The Bears game where they won on a Hail Mary, the Eagles game where they win on a last-second touchdown, and then the overtime win over the Falcons on Sunday. So we think the curse has finally run its course. He's back, everybody.
Look, if 2025 starts off with a bang, Craig, then we're going to have a great year, man.
I'm excited for it.
Great year for all our sports teams.
I'm excited for it. We're also taking donations to the Anthony Playoff Fund, wherever the Commanders might wind up playing. Okay, other guests of the year besides Croy. The day that Cliff Kingsbury was hired, we were out in Ashburn, and Sam Fortier came on the show, and he had done a story on Cliff when Cliff was still at Texas Tech, and he, in the process of reporting that story, got this story.
And I heard all the time, hey, Cliff gets the building early. He's the first one in, he's the last one out. And I was like, okay, yeah, I've heard that a million times, and they said he got there at 4 a.m. and I was in a hotel probably like half a mile away. So I was like, you know what? I was like, one day I just got up at like 3:45 and I was like, I'm going to be there at 4 and I'm going to see if this dude really gets there. And I'm sitting on the steps outside the Texas Tech football facility in Lubbock. And at 4:06 a.m., white Escalade pulls in, head beams on. And he was the only one there. He came up to me. He's like, what are you doing here? And I was like, everybody said you would be here at this time. I'm a reporter.
So I
had to go check.
This is a good lesson, right? I'm going to bring the alma mater into this. But they teach us in journalism school that if your mom says she loves you, you better double check. And I think Sam Fortier showing up at 4 a.m. to the Texas Tech football facility is as close to living that mantra as has ever been done. Shout out to Sam Fortier.
Shout out that boy.
A real a real-ass reporter. Kevin Harlan, well, the segment we're about to do, Real Things Real People Said in Real Microphones, he was the inspiration of it. As I finally, after years of wanting to do this, got to explain to him at none other than Super Bowl Radio Row.
I don't know how to...
Or actually...
Look, man, I could...
The end of our show every day, we do a segment we call Real Things Real People Said into Real Microphones.
Yeah.
And the segment was founded when I was doing nights and weekends, basically as an excuse to play your call of the drunk streakers that would take the field during Monday Night Football.
Yeah. Well, they were ready for the snap. Kid ran out of the stands and ran right through the slot receiver's position, literally seconds before the ball was going to be snapped in a shotgun. And he ran right through the defensive line and the linebackers of the Niners and through their secondary. And he ran with no one even blinking. Like they just looked at him. The players put their hands on their hips. He ran all the way to the one end. Then he came back the other, and there was no security. Like, he just kept running. And Kurt and I were kind of having fun with it. When that bit was over and the game ended.
Happened again, and you kind of had
It
this.
did in the Super Bowl, but this guy came out like in a costume. But I swore to my wife as I got in bed that night, I will not do this again.
No.
I promise you. I promised you I will not do it again.
And unfortunately, that was the last time that Kevin Harlan did play-by-play of a streaker. Dang. Anthony, how much time do we have left in the show?
We got 2 minutes and 15 seconds now.
All right. One more. Viral moment of the year. Jordan Poole. As we sat down at Media Day, we exchanged notes on learning French. And this ultimately got spread around the internet like wildfire.
Wee going on in there. I'm working on my French. There's hella wee going on in there. I'm working on my French. So
How's that going?
It's going good. I got 3 players on the team who speak French, so I'll just ask some questions throughout the course of the day, course of the year and stuff. So
Who's the most helpful?
me and Bilal going on year 2. He year 2 is my teacher, but it helps with Keyshawn.
He's bilingual.
Yeah, fire.
No,
And then we got mad French people around the facility. I'm not gonna lie, so there's hella wee going on in there. Bon travail, all type of stuff.
That would have been helpful. I just was doing Duolingo, and
I started with that, but
I only got so far.
yeah, le chat is the only thing that I learned, bro. That mean like cat, bro. That's it.
Tu manges un orange. Okay, cool. He can
Yeah,
eat an orange,
right?
but like, how helpful is? Yeah, tu manges un orange.
No, I'm gonna have my French right by the start of the season.
All right. Jordan and I said that next year we do our interview in partially French. I failed on that. It's absolutely not going to happen. Those are just some of the best moments of the year. Again, you can always relive the show on YouTube in the podcast feed. We hope that you were with us for as many of those as you can. We've certainly had a lot of fun. And what would be one more Hoffman Show without one more edition of Real Things Real People Said into Real Microphones?
Real things.
We're not going to suck this year.
Real people.
5 and 11, not very good.
Said into real microphones.
You know, the culture is actually damn good.
Ian Eagle is a Real Things Hall of Famer, and his son is trying to follow in his footsteps. Noah Eagle, everybody.
I would get home and it would be, clean your room. And I would say, not today. And he would say, breakfast denied. And I'd say, I want some eggs. And then he would say, broken ankles and yolks. And I would say, I'm not hungry. And then I'd get grounded. That's usually how it would go.
That's it. That's all. That's the show. We're off tomorrow. See you next year.